Hi there, Acadia owners. Today in your 2020 GMC Acadia, we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install CURT's Class 3 2-inch trailer hitch receiver. For the most part, our hitch is going to be completely hidden behind our fascia here. We can only see a small bit of the receiver here at the back. Now when you are ready to use your hitch, you will need to remove the hitch cover here at the back. There's 2 bolts on bottom that we'll take out. We're just going to use a 7mm socket to remove these. There's one on each side here. And then our cover will simply pull right off, giving us full access to the hitch and make it much easier to be able to install our safety chains as well as our hitch pin. It's a 2-inch by 2-inch receiver, so it's going to be great for all of your towing needs, whether you're wanting to use it for accessories such as a bike rack or cargo carrier, or if you're wanting to put a ball mount in the back and do some towing with it. It uses a 5/8" hitch pin and clip. Now one doesn't come included with the hitch, but we've got plenty available here at etrailer.com. On bottom we have plate style safety chain loops with a moderately sized opening that should accommodate most of your safety chains. Our small one here has no problem, and even this big guy here can hook on there with ease. This hitch offers a 750-pound tongue weight, which is the force going down on top of the receiver. And that should be more than enough for a 4-bike platform rack fully loaded up with 4 bikes, or the largest cargo carrier that we have available here at etrailer.com, installed and loaded up to the maximum. It also offers a 5,000-pound gross towing capacity, which is how much that it can pull behind it. So if you've got a pop-up camper, or if you want to bring a small fishing boat or some jet skis to the lake with you, you should be able to do so with this hitch. Also, this hitch is rated for use with a weight distribution system. When using one, our tongue weight's going to be the same, but our gross towing capacity will increase to 6,000 pounds. A weight distribution system will take the weight loading down the back of our vehicle and help redistribute up to the front of the axle, bringing us level again, restoring that lost braking and handling performance. We've got plenty of different weight distribution systems available here at etrailer.com, so you can pick the best one that matches your particular setup. As always, I recommend that you verify in your vehicle's owner's manual and ensure you don't exceed any of its towing capacities. Now I've got some measurements for you to help you when deciding on accessories. From the center of the hitch pin hole to the edge of the rear bumper, it measures about 6 inches. This is important when determining if any of your folding accessories can be placed in the upright storage position without contacting the bumper. And from the ground to the top inside edge of the receiver tube, it measures about 16 inches. This is important when determining if you need a drop, a rise, or a raised shank on any of your accessories. Now that we've gone over some of the features, let's head into the shop and get the installation completed together so you can have the confidence to do it at home. We'll begin our installation underneath the vehicle by lowering down our exhaust. But before we lower it, we want to make sure we have something in place to catch it so it doesn't lower down too far and cause any damage to anything. So we're just going to place a strap underneath of it. Then I'm just going to kind of strap it up so we've got something to catch it right here in the middle. To lower down your exhaust, we're going to remove the 2 bolts that hold the hanger at the back here, and we're going to use a 15mm socket to do so. Should be able to come in with an extension above the exhaust to get on those. If you don't have an extension, you can use a wrench. We'll take them out on the other side as well. Now to take the exhaust off, we'll just raise up on it slightly and then we can push outward on the hanger until it releases from the little hook there. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Here's the little hole right here, and here's the hook right up here. Now if we go towards the center of the vehicle and go forward some, there's one more hanger here that we'll want to take off. With this one, we're going to use some spray lubricant on it. And then we can just use a pry bar to pry it off of there. On each side, we'll then need to take down the heat shield that's located above our exhaust, and there's 4 speed nuts we'll need to take off of those. Now with the speed nut, there's no hex or anything on it, so there's no socket or wrench you can put on it. You just use a pair of pliers and just kind of hook it in the little grooves there and then spin it off. It can be a little cumbersome, but just kind of keep working at it. Usually once you get it started, you can then finish taking it off by hand. Once you got your last nut off, Just slide it down off the studs. And then we're going to set it aside. We are going to have to trim it and reinstall it, but we're going to go ahead and remove the other side as well. With both of our heat shields removed, we can now trim them out. I've gone ahead and marked the area that we're going to be trimming on our heat shields, and we're going to be doing this to both of them. With these, an easy way to cut them is just use a pair of tin snips, and we're just going to follow our marks that we made and just cut it right on out. You'll find the markings that I've made here, you'll find a diagram in your instructions, so you could use that as well to mark your own out. You do want to be careful when cutting this out as it can be a little sharp, so just watch your hands near the sharp edges. Now that we've got it trimmed out, we can go ahead and reinstall it. We'll get this side installed, we're going to cut out the other side and reinstall it the same way. And you can see here it's basically just leaving us an opening for our hitch to be able to rest against the frame without pinching anything in between it. Then you can just thread your speed nuts back on to hold it in place. One of the speed nuts you won't need to put back on because we had trimmed out the mounting location on the heat shield. So you can just save that extra speed nut for the future so you got a spare. In order for our hitch to sit flush against the bottom of the frame, we are going to trim off some of the caulk that you'll see here. We don't need to take it all the way off, but we just want to try to get it as smooth to the bottom of the frame as possible. So we're just going to take our razor knife and we're just kind of just shaving it off along the bottom. We can now start fish wiring in our hardware. We're going to take the coiled wire that comes in our kit. We're going to go in the hole in our frame here. We're going to start with the one towards the rearmost of the vehicle, and we'll eventually be doing the two that are forward of that. But we're going to bring that coiled end through, and the larger hole here is going to be our access hole. So we're going to grab the coiled end and we're going to bring it back down through this opening. We can then take the spacer that comes in our kit, slide it over our coiled wire, and then take the carriage bolt that comes in our kit and thread it onto the coiled end. We can then take the spacer, push it up into the frame, as well as our bolt, and then drop them back down by pulling on our coiled wire. We're going to do the same thing with the other two holes here, using the large hole as the access hole, and then we'll repeat that over on the other side. The stud to the inside of the rearmost bolt is going to interfere with our hitch, so we are going to have to remove that. You can cut it off if you have a wheel. You can just take a pair of vice grips and just hook it onto the stud, and then if you just rock it back and forth, it'll just pull off of there. We're going to do the same thing over on the other side. Now with an extra set of hands, we'll lift our hitch into position. We'll need to feed the fish wires down through the holes in our hitch that correspond with the ones they're going to line up with. We can then raise the hitch up. We can pull our coiled wire off and start our flange nut on it. You want to be careful not to push the flange nut back into the frame. It is a little tricky since these bolts are so short they barely stick through enough. But once you get it started on there, the hitch will hold itself up, making it easier to install the rest of your hardware. Now that we've got them each started, we can go back and tighten them down with an 11/16 socket. We can then go back and torque our hardware to the specifications found in our instructions. Now that we've got our hitch in place and we got it all torqued down, it's not mentioned anywhere in the instructions, but what we noticed here is that at the back here, we can't really even put anything into our receiver because our cover here is going to be in the way. This cover is easily removed. There's 2 bolts on each side. Just take a 7mm socket and remove those bolts and we can pop it down. At this point now, you can either just leave this cover off and you can tow with it like this, or we can trim around this panel and put it back on. However, when you do that, your panel is still going to cover up part of the hitch, so you will have to remove it every time you want to use your hitch. Now our customer opted to have his trimmed out, and what we'll need to do in order to get this trimmed so it'll fit properly is to go in about a ½ inch, and we're going to cut across about 3 inches. And I recommend just using your hitch kind of as a template to help you line up where to properly place these marks. And we're just going to use a pair of snips just to trim this up. And once you get it trimmed out, we can just take our file and just knock off any of those rough edges with it, smooth it back out. Once you've got it trimmed out, you can go ahead and test your fit. Slide up the top part first until it snaps in. Then you can just kind of fold it in there, and we can see that we're nice up against the receiver there. And our bolt holes and everything line up so we don't have anything in a bind, so we can just reinstall this. And you can see here now that it's not going to be usable when this is in, but with this in place, it does hide our hitch for the most part and helps us maintain that factory look across the back of our fascia. Because for the most part, anybody that's looking at your vehicle from most angles, they're not even going to notice it unless they're looking directly here at the back. Now that we've got both of those back in place, we can raise our exhaust back up. And what's nice about this, it does have those little hooks, so we can just lift them up and line up that hole with the hook on each side. And that'll hold it up there. We'll do the same over on the other side. And then we can just reinstall our bolts. I find it easier to use your extension and socket to feed them in there to get them started. And then we can run it down with a tool afterwards. And lastly, we have the hanger here towards the front of the vehicle. To get these installed, it's a little bit easier if you use some spray lube. I'm just trying to not get it all over my hand, so we'll kind of get it lined up. Put a little spritz on it. And then it'll slip right back on there nice and easy. We can now remove our strap, and we're ready to load up our favorite accessories and hit the road. And that completes our installation of CURT's Class 3 2-inch trailer hitch receiver on our 2020 GMC Acadia.